What's up guys, hope you're having an awesome day wherever and whenever you're watching this. I'm your host Ayman Hassan and welcome back to another video here at Most Amazing Top 10. So this is my favorite series that I filmed by far, illegal games. Very bad but sometimes very fun. As a gamer myself, I know there are some pretty messed up games out there, but every time I make one of these videos I'm always enlightened, get surprised at how screwed up some of them can actually be, and then I'm like, who even comes up with these games? But anyway, enough of me, let's just get into it. This is the top 10 games that are illegal to play part 3. Starting us off at number 10 is Valkyrie Drive BHIKKHUNI. So this game was developed by Meteorize for the PlayStation Vita and was first released in Japan in 2015 and then worldwide a year later. The game focuses on the island of Bikini, in which all the girls are infected with the VR virus. The only way to cure the virus is to fight over and over again so they can control their abilities. And there's two types of girls: X-Stars, who can transform themselves into weapons when they're sexually aroused, and Liberators, who can wield these X-Stars when they're in their weapon form. The gameplay has two phases, the adventure parts and the action parts, and during the fighting sequences the girls work in pairs to defeat enemies, and sometimes doing strong special moves can tear off the clothes of your partner or your enemy. I don't know how that helps, but I guess it's just part of the game. The drive part of the game is when both girls combine forces during weaponization, so a sexy curtain will appear and then they touch each other explicitly for a bit and then boom, weaponization. There's even a boob ranking system in the game, but let's just not get into that. You can also grope and undress other girls in the dressing room if you want to. I don't know how that's gonna help you in the game, but if you want to, go ahead. The game ended up getting banned in many countries like Iran, Pakistan, China, Russia, Germany, Kenya, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and New Zealand for glorifying sexuality, homosexuality, just all around sexual content involving minors, and promoting immoral values. That was a very long list. They also weren't happy with the fact that two main characters, sisters Ranka and Rinka, have an incestuous relationship of sorts. I mean, so you know, I kinda get where they're coming from there. Coming in at number 9 is Wolfenstein 3D. So Wolfenstein itself is a World War II themed series, and it's actually sort of a legendary because it really helped popularize first-person shooting games, even though now that's basically the norm. People have gone as far as to say COD wouldn't have even existed had this game not come out, which is a big statement. Now Wolfenstein 3D was the third game in the series and it was released in 1992, and honestly the game is pretty simple. You play as an allied spy and you have to escape Castle Wolfenstein. Many of the games are banned in Germany for obvious reasons, mainly the Nazi references and high impact gory violence, and the 8th game in the series was also banned in the UAE for interactive sex scenes. I just love how this is a series focused on World War II. Like, there's so much content you could put in these games, yet they found the time and somehow managed to include an interactive sex scene. It was a necessity, clearly. At number 8 we have the Dead Island series. Dead Island is a survival horror role-playing game developed by Techland, and it was released back in 2011. You can play it multiplayer or alone, and the game centers around a zombie-filled open world, and there are 4 playable characters to choose from, and the aim of the game is to escape the island of Banoi that you're on. You know, surrounded by zombies and all. Definitely would not like to be on a zombie-infested island, thank you. Most of the game is about combat and finishing your quests. You can earn XP when doing so, and then level up. The first half of the game only has melee weapons for you to use, but the second half has some firearms, but either way the weapons are displaced all over the world and are randomly generated. Some zombies are stronger than others, some have special abilities, so you have to look out for everything and make sure your stamina bar doesn't deplete, otherwise you're basically dead. The game was banned in Germany, Japan, and the UAE for extreme depictions of high impact gory violence and scantily clad characters. There is also controversy around the Perna character, who has an unlockable skill dubbed Gender Wars, which lets her do more damage to male opponents. Now during development she was called the Feminist Whore, and although it was edited out for the final release, you can still find it in debug code on the computer version of the game. Filling our number 7 slot is Death Race. Now how many games on this list start with death? I'm not really sure. But anyway, this is a major throwback because it's actually a 1976 arcade game. It was released by Exidy that year, and it was basically a modified version of the game Destruction Derby. The point of the game is pretty simple. It can be single player or 2 player, and the whole screen's black and white, and you drive a car. I mean, if you can call that pixelated blob a car, and the point point is to run over the gremlins that are also on the screen, even though the gremlins basically just look like people, but they're just called gremlins, probably just, you know, to be an easier pill to swallow. But when you manage to successfully hit one, it lets out an eerie scream and a crossed tombstone appears. That makes it harder because the tombstones remain as obstacles whilst the player still has to hit more gremlins, aka it's a driving game whose point is to kill pedestrians, gremlins. The game was insanely popular for an arcade game. It was showing up in bars, restaurants, arcades, amusement parks. It was anywhere you'd find arcade games. The game was only meant to be an interim product until Exidy released their actual car game the next year, but reporter Wendy Walker published a very popular article talking about how the game's violent content could affect those playing it. After many complaints, amusement parks started removing it from their arcades. Arcade or restaurant owners just simply stopped renting the Death Race cabinet, but that just wasn't a big deal for Exidy. They just kept moving their cabinets from state to state wherever there just wasn't much controversy about the game, which I mean, kudos to you for trying to keep it alive. By the next year, the game was no longer in the headlines, but I can't tell whether that was because people stopped caring or because the game basically got banned in all of America. Also, can we just take a second to talk about how this game was branded as making players more violent when it's literally just pixelated blobs? We really had no idea of what was to come, did we? Now at number 6 is Left 4 Dead 2. So Left 4 Dead 2 is a first-person shooter game developed by Valve Corporation, and it was released back in 2009. The game builds on its predecessor and is set in a post-zombie apocalyptic world, but the zombies are very much still there. This one follows a new group of 4 survivors going against the infected around them. You go through 5 campaigns, you find safe houses, try to keep each other alive. It pretty much sounds like a spin-off video game of The Walking Dead, if I'm honest. Weapons are separated into tiers, and each survivor can only carry one weapon from each tier. If you're close to dying, you have to fend all the infected off with a handgun until someone helps revive you, aka you'll probably just die. Now the game's version of the city of New Orleans garnered a lot of controversy because the city was filled with dead, bloated bodies, and so people thought it was insensitive to depict that when Hurricane Katrina only happened a few years prior and the place that was most badly hit was New Orleans. On top of that, the game was accused of being racist because most of the infected appeared to be African Americans, whereas others argued back, saying that just reflected the racial demographic of New Orleans. The game ended up getting banned in Australia and Germany due to very realistic, unrelenting violence, and Valve then submitted a modified version removing any images of piles of dead bodies, decapitations, dismemberment, or wound details, and that one was actually approved. But if you're anywhere else in the world, you have full access to all the gore that Germany and Australia are missing out on, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Coming in at number 5 is EA Sports MMA. So from the title you can most likely guess that EA Sports MMA is a mixed martial arts fighting game. It was released at the end of 2010 by EA Sports for the PS3 and Xbox 360. The gameplay is pretty straightforward. You attack your enemy in the ring as you see fit. You can fight the orthodox way or southpaw, it's really up to you. The venues change. It even has a live broadcast feature where you can upload your games, and people actually got real life prizes for it. If you've ever watched an MMA fight on TV, you know how brutal they can be, and yes, Conor McGregor, I'm definitely talking to you. So it isn't really a huge surprise that the game ended up getting banned in Denmark. But funnily enough, it wasn't banned because of the violence in the game, it was banned because of all the energy drink advertisements within the game. Rockstar Energy Drink is pretty much plastered everywhere in the game, and there's a law in Denmark that prohibits any marketing for energy drinks, and therefore the game was banned. Unlucky Denmark. At number 4 is the Call of Duty series. Okay, everyone just put their hand up if they played COD, guilty as charged. I used to play Black Ops, and I just used to camp in Nuketown and just shoot people from the upstairs window when I got lazy. And don't even get me started on zombies because that gave me major stress. Let's not talk about it. But anyway, COD is a first-person shooter franchise which first came out and took the world by storm in 2003. The first few games focused on World War II, but later games focused on other conflicts like the Cold War, outer space conflict, etc. With most, if not all the games, there are campaigns you play, which is like basically the story mode, but you can also play in maps online against other people, in maps offline with your friends against bots. It's actually a really fun game, I'm not gonna lie, and excluding being fun, the game is hella successful. They've made over $15 billion. By 2016, they sold over 250 million copies. But with great success does come great conflict. Black Ops nearly got banned in Cuba for including a mission where you have to kill Fidel Castro. Germany has banned 4 games in the franchise. Black Ops was banned in Japan. COD 4 Modern Warfare was banned in Saudi Arabia and the UAE for having quotes from the Quran, which was deemed offensive, and some were even banned in Russia for having a storyline where where Russian ultra-nationalists take over Russia and then invade the US. All in all, many countries have found issues with COD, and that's all that really matters for this list. Filling our number 3 slot is the Saints Row series. Saints Row is a series of action-adventure games created by Volition, first released in 2006. The game focuses on a gang called the 3rd Street Saints, and the gameplay is in an open world and it features non-linear gameplay and racing sequences as well. The aim of the game is to lead the gang and overtake their rival gang in a turf war. Basically, that's the game. And the game is also known for its comedic shock value. So far, it just really doesn't sound too problematic, does it? It's also kind of like GTA in the sense you can kill whoever you want on the street, but then the police will be after you, and if you die, then you just respawn at the nearest hospital. Okay, it's not just like GTA. People even called it a GTA clone, but without any social commentary. Harsh and savage. The third game in particular caused a lot of controversy because it had missions like Trojan Horse and set pieces called things like Stick It In and Tits and Grits. They even went as far as to make a sex trafficking related mission to try and find humor in it, and that was, as you can imagine, not well received. But the thing that people didn't understand is the giant purple dildo weapon you could use to beat people to death, and its sequel had a similar weapon called the Alien Anal Probe. You basically find someone, shove it up there, press a button, and then that person is launched into the air. That's about it. And some things people just didn't know how to explain or defend. I mean, in one chase sequence, you're in a chariot which is being pulled around by a man in a dominatrix outfit while the gang behind you are in their own dominatrix powered chariots, and it's just weird. I just don't know how you could say that's art in any way. In the end, the games were banned in Germany and the UAE for many reasons like excessive violence, sexual themes, high impact violence, and probably the dildos. Now at number 2 is Baby Shaker. Now this one isn't a console game, it's a phone game, but this list doesn't discriminate. Games are games, so why not include an Apple Store game? How many times have I said game? Anyway, half the world have iPhones, they probably have a bigger reach than a lot of gaming consoles anyway, so gotta love the 21st century. But anyway, Baby Shaker was a game made by Soft that came out for the iPhone back in 2009. The game cost 99 cents and it showed a black and white drawing of a crying baby, and you can hear the cries. Very tech savvy. And underneath the drawing, this paragraph was written: on a plane, on the bus, in the theater, babies are everywhere you don't want them to be. They're always distracting you from preparing for that big presentation at work with their incessant crying. For Baby Shaker, there was nothing you could do about it. See how long you can endure his or her adorable cries before you just have to find a way to quiet the baby down. The point of the game is to see how long you can stand the baby crying before you can't take it anymore, then at which point you start shaking your phone to quiet down the baby. Shaking your phone actually just kills the baby. You figure that out when 2 large red X's appear over the baby's eyes and the crying stops. It was in the Apple Store for a total of 3 days before Apple took it down. But even 3 days is enough to reach the masses. Complaints started filing into Steve Jobs or the executives for not properly screening such an awful game. Ironically, the App Store has been criticized in the past for being too strict to the point they'd ban games that had farting noises in them. Yet this one just flew under the radar. Either way, it got banned within 3 days, and I highly doubt you can find the game anywhere now as it's been 10 years, and I'm pretty sure at least one person in every country in the world except Antarctica has an iPhone, so I guess you could say the game was banned worldwide. And finally, at number 1 is Mortal Kombat. I didn't want to put this one on the list, it physically hurts me, but I had to. If you live under a rock and don't know what Mortal Kombat is, it's a fighting game franchise with the first one having been released in 1992. This game is iconic. There are so many sequels to the game, spin-offs, TV shows, a comic book series, and even a live action tour. It's one of the most successful fighting games in video game history and is also one of the highest grossing. So how did it end up on this list, and how did it end up as number 1? As a fighting game, there are special moves that each character has. Fatalities are gruesome, and they've only gotten more gruesome and more HD as the games have progressed. Fatalities, if you don't know, are a player's finishing move on their opponent. One character called Kano literally has a move where he can rip your heart out, just to give you a small example. When it first came out, even Nintendo didn't release it because of the blood and the gore. It was one of the first few games psychologists tested on whether video games made players more violent in real life or not. A study done in 2000 claimed that the video did, and it was backed up by the Columbine High School massacre that happened a year prior, where 2 teens killed 13 people and injured 24. The 2 perpetrators played the game obsessively, and Bill Clinton himself said it's games like Mortal Kombat that makes kids more active in simulating simulated violence. The game series ended up getting banned in South Korea, Japan, Germany, Malaysia, Brazil, and Australia for a variety of reasons, namely high impact gory violence for no reason other than entertainment. But isn't that just most games these days anyway? And that's it for today's video, guys. As a gamer, this series makes me laugh and cry simultaneously, and I don't know which one to do more of, to be honest. Let me know which games you think deserve to get banned and which ones were perhaps, you know, okay. Also let me know if you've played any of these games, and no, Mortal Kombat doesn't count because that's like all of us. But anyway guys, I've been your host Ayman Hassan, and I'll see you next time. Bye!